Welcome to Storytell Kids.
Once upon a time, far across the sparkling blue sea, there was a beautiful underwater kingdom called Coral Bay. The water shimmered with glowing lights, shining pearls, and the most colorful coral gardens you could ever imagine. This kingdom was ruled by the kind and brave Princess Nia, alongside her father, King Coral. Princess Nia was loved by every single sea creature. She was gentle, she was smart, and she was never ever afraid to help someone in need. Instead of a heavy crown, she wore a simple one made of shells, and her long flowing hair danced like waves in the water. But the most precious thing in the entire kingdom was the ocean pearl. This wasn't just any pearl. It was a glowing, magical pearl that lit up the whole underwater world, especially at night. It was their sun, their moon, their guiding light, kept safely on a coral pedestal right in the heart of the royal palace. Then, one morning, everything changed. When Princess Nia went to greet the pearl, she gasped. The pedestal was empty. The ocean pearl was gone. Almost immediately, a gloom fell over the kingdom. The water began to darken. The fish, usually so cheerful, grew scared. The playful dolphins stopped their games, and the vibrant coral gardens started to lose their brilliant colors. King Coral gathered all the sea creatures together. "Without the ocean pearl," he said, his voice filled with worry, "our kingdom will lose its light and its magic." The crowd of sea creatures murmured anxiously. But then, Princess Nia stood tall. Her voice rang out, clear and steady. "Don't be afraid," she declared. "I will find the ocean pearl and bring it home." A glimmer of hope returned to their eyes as they watched their brave princess prepare for her quest. Nia packed a small treasure bag for her journey. Inside, she put some tasty seaweed snacks and a special glowing seashell to light her way. She said goodbye to her father and swam out of the palace, heading into the vast, open ocean. She glided past deep coral caves, through forests of tall, swaying seaweed, and over beds of shiny shells scattered across the ocean floor. Soon she met her friend Dolly the dolphin, who was known for being the fastest swimmer in Coral Bay. "Dolly," Nia called out, "have you seen the ocean pearl?" Dolly zipped around her in a playful circle, but her tone was serious. "I saw something glowing near the dark trench last night," she said, flipping her tail. "But you have to be careful, Princess. They say something very big and very mysterious lives down there." Nia thanked her friend for the warning and, with a determined look, swam bravely toward the foreboding trench. The dark trench was just as its name described. It was deep, it was cold, and it was eerily quiet. The light from Nia's seashell barely pierced the darkness. Taking a deep breath to steady her nerves, she swam down into the abyss. As she ventured deeper, she spotted a small crab hiding under a rock, trembling. "Why are you hiding, little one?" Nia asked kindly. The crab, whose name was Krabby, peeked out. "There was a huge shadow," he whispered, his claws clicking together nervously. I think the sea monster has the pearl." His eyes were wide with fear. Most would have turned back right then, but not Nia. "Don't worry, Krabby," she said with a reassuring smile. "I'll go talk to him. I believe that even monsters can be kind if you give them a chance." Feeling a bit braver, Krabby pushed a shiny blue pebble toward her. "For courage," he said. Nia tucked the pebble into her bag, feeling its smooth weight, and continued her descent into the heart of the trench. Finally, at the very bottom, she saw a dark cave. And inside, she saw a familiar, soft glow. It was the ocean pearl sitting on a large rock, but it wasn't alone. Next to it was the sea monster. He was huge, with long, coiling tentacles and two big, glowing yellow eyes that watched her every move. A low growl rumbled from his chest. "Why have you come here, little princess?" he asked, his voice deep and gravelly. "I saw the pearl shining so brightly, and I took it so it would keep me company here in the dark." A gentle smile touched Nia's lips. She understood. "I know how it feels to be lonely," she said softly. "But this pearl's light belongs to everyone. If you return it, you can visit our kingdom whenever you want. You'll have hundreds of friends. You'll never have to be lonely again." The sea monster blinked his big yellow eyes. No one had ever spoken to him with such kindness before.
He looked at the pearl, then back at the princess.
Slowly, carefully, the sea monster used one of his long tentacles to pick up the glowing pearl and gently handed it to Nia. "Thank you," she said warmly, her heart filled with gratitude. "Now, come with me. We'll make you part of our ocean family." And for the first time in a very long time, the sea monster didn't feel like a monster. He felt like a friend.
He followed her out of the dark trench and back towards the light of Coral Bay. When they arrived, the whole kingdom was waiting anxiously.
Nia swam to the empty pedestal and placed the ocean pearl back where it belonged. Instantly, a brilliant magical light pulsed outwards, bathing the entire ocean in its warm glow. The colors returned to the coral, brighter than ever. The fish danced in joyful circles, and the dolphins leaped high into the water,
Their happy clicks echoing through the kingdom. Everyone cheered for their heroic princess, Nia.
From that day on, the sea monster became the official guardian of the ocean pearl, standing watch to keep it safe. But he was never lonely again.
He had friends, he had laughter, and he had light.
King Coral hugged his daughter tightly. "Nia," he said, his voice thick with pride, "you saved our kingdom."
Not with power, but with kindness.
Nia smiled, looking out at her beautiful, glowing home. "Sometimes," she said, "the greatest treasure of all is friendship." And so, Princess Nia, the sea monster, and all their ocean friends lived happily ever after. The moral of our story is that a little bit of kindness can change even the coldest heart.
And that friendship is always more powerful than fear.
True leaders like Princess Nia use love and understanding, not force.
Thank you so much for joining us on this underwater adventure.
If you loved this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more magical tales. We can't wait to see you again next time. Bye for now. Once upon a time, in a beautiful sunny meadow filled with flowers, lived a hare and a tortoise.
The hare was super fast and oh so proud of it.
He loved to zoom around, showing everyone just how quickly he could run. Almost every day, he would see the tortoise ambling along and couldn't help but laugh. My, you are so slow," he would tease. "I could run circles around you before you even take a single step."
But the tortoise, with his wise and gentle eyes, would just smile calmly and reply, "Perhaps.
But remember, my friend, slow and steady wins the race." One bright, beautiful morning, a new idea popped into the hare's head. He zipped over to the tortoise and announced to everyone, "I know! Let's have a race. Then everyone will finally see just how fast I am and how slow you are." To the hare's surprise, the tortoise didn't argue. He just agreed with that same quiet, knowing smile.
The news of the race spread like wildfire through the forest.
All the animals came to watch. The birds chirped excitedly from the branches, the squirrels chattered and clapped their tiny paws, and the clever old fox agreed to be the judge. He stood at the starting line, holding a big green leaf as a flag.
"On your marks!"
the fox shouted, his voice echoing through the meadow. "Get set, go!"
And just like that, the hare was off.
He was a blur of white fur, dashing down the path like a flash of lightning. He kicked up a little cloud of dust behind him.
The tortoise, on the other hand, started his journey very slowly. He took one step, and then another step, and then another. He just kept moving, steady as can be.
About halfway through the race,
the hare was so far ahead that he couldn't even see the tortoise anymore.
He stopped, looked back down the long winding path, and chuckled to himself. I'm miles ahead.
That slowpoke will take all day to get here. I have plenty of time for a little nap."
Feeling very smug, the hare found a comfortable, shady spot under a big oak tree, lay down, and in just a few moments, he was fast asleep.
He even started to snore, a quiet little zzz in the peaceful afternoon. But the tortoise? He never stopped. Not for a second. He just kept going, his eyes fixed on the path ahead.
He kept his rhythm, slow and steady, step by step by step. He saw the shady tree where the hare was sleeping.
He heard the little snores, but he didn't stop to gloat or to rest. He just kept moving step by step by step.
He passed the sleeping hare and continued on his journey toward the finish line.
Finally, after what seemed like a long time, the tortoise crossed the finish line.
A huge cheer erupted from the crowd of animals who had been waiting patiently.
Hooray for the tortoise!
He did it! He won!
They all shouted.
The noise was so loud that it woke the hare from his deep sleep. He blinked his eyes, stretched, and then remembered the race. He jumped up and dashed toward the finish line as fast as his legs could carry him, a panicked look on his face. But it was too late. The tortoise was already there, wearing a winter's wreath of flowers, looking tired but very happy. The hare stood there, completely out of breath, his ears drooping with embarrassment. He looked at the tortoise and said,
"I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been so proud and made fun of you."
The tortoise smiled kindly, his victory making him gracious. "It's okay," he said. "Just remember, my friend, slow and steady wins the race." From that day forward, the hare and the tortoise became the best of friends, and the hare learned a very important lesson about patience and hard work. And the moral of our story today is a wonderful one. It teaches us that being persistent and never giving up is what truly leads to success. It's not always about being the fastest or the flashiest, but about keeping going no matter what. Thank you so much for joining me for this story. I hope you loved it, little story lovers, and welcome to our magical story corner. Today, we have a tale about a clever fox and a graceful stork who lived together in a quiet little forest. Once upon a time, there was a fox who loved playing tricks, and a stork who was gentle and kind to everyone. One sunny afternoon, the fox thought it would be funny to invite the stork over for dinner. "Dear friend," he said with a sly grin, "come to my house tonight. I'll cook something special just for you." The stork was thrilled by the invitation. "Oh, thank you, fox. I'll be there," she replied, flapping her wings with excitement. That evening, the fox served a delicious-smelling soup.
But here's the tricky part. Instead of bowls, he poured the soup into very shallow, flat plates.
The fox easily licked his plate clean with his tongue, slurp, slurp, slurp. But the poor stork, with her long, thin beak, couldn't get a single drop. She could only dip the very tip of her beak and sniff the wonderful aroma, her tummy still rumbling. The fox chuckled behind his paw. "What's wrong, my friend? Don't you like my soup?" The stork, always polite, simply said, "Oh, it's lovely, thank you," and quietly flew home, feeling sad and very hungry. A few days later, it was the stork's turn to host. She invited the fox to her home for dinner. "Of course," the fox exclaimed, licking his lips in anticipation. "I can't wait to see what you've made." When the fox arrived, the air was filled with a wonderful smell. But this time, the delicious food was served in tall, narrow jars with very long necks. The stork easily dipped her long beak right into the jar and enjoyed her meal with delight. The fox, however, could only sniff from the outside. His short snout couldn't reach the food inside, no matter how hard he tried. He just circled the jar, feeling frustrated. The stork smiled gently. "Oh, dear fox," she said kindly, "is something the matter? Don't you like my dinner?" The fox's ears drooped. He suddenly felt very embarrassed and understood how unkind his little trick had been. He looked at the stork and said, "I'm so sorry, stork. I shouldn't have tricked you. I see now that it wasn't a very nice thing to do." The stork nodded and said warmly, "It's all right, fox.
But always remember this lesson. We should treat others the way we want to be treated."
From that day forward, the fox stopped playing mean tricks and became a true and thoughtful friend to the stork. And the moral of our story is a very important one.
Always treat others with the same kindness and respect you hope to receive yourself.
Kindness always wins in the end. Once upon a time, deep in a big, green jungle, there lived a proud lion named Leo. He was the king of the forest, strong, fierce, and all the other animals were very scared of him. Every single day, Leo would go hunting and catch whichever animal he wanted for his dinner. The poor animals lived in constant fear. One day, They decided they couldn't take it anymore and gathered for a meeting under a tall tree. "We can't live like this," cried a deer. "If the lion keeps hunting us, soon none of us will be left." The wise old elephant had an idea. "Let's make a plan," he said. "We'll send one animal to the lion every day for his meal. That way he won't have to hunt, and the rest of us can be safe."
Everyone thought this was a good though sad solution. They went to the lion's cave and explained their plan.
Leo thought for a moment and then agreed. "Very well," he growled. "But you must send me one animal every single day without fail."
"If you don't, I'll hunt all of you."
The animals nervously nodded and left. Days passed, and one by one, an animal went to the lion. Then it was the turn of a tiny but very clever rabbit named Ricky. As he hopped slowly towards the lion's den, he thought to himself,
"This can't go on. I have to use my brains to save everyone."
He came up with a clever plan and decided to arrive at the lion's cave very, very late. When Ricky finally showed up, the sun was setting, and the lion was roaring with hunger and rage.
"Why are you so late?"
he bellowed. Ricky bowed low and said,
"Oh, mighty king, please forgive me. I was actually on my way here with another, much bigger rabbit for your meal. But on the way, another lion stopped us.
He said that he is the real king of this forest."
The foolish lion's eyes burned with fury. "What? Another lion? How dare he? Take me to him right now. I'll show him who the real king is."
Ricky nodded and led the angry lion deep into the forest until they reached an old stone well. The water inside was crystal clear and still, just like a mirror.
"Your Majesty,"
Ricky whispered, pointing into the well.
"the other lion lives down there.
Look, he's hiding from you." The lion peered over the edge and saw his own reflection staring back at him from the water. Thinking it was his rival, he let out a mighty roo-o-or.
His reflection in the water seemed to roar right back.
Furious and foolish, the lion leaped into the well to attack his enemy.
Splash! But of course, there was no other lion, only deep water.
He couldn't climb out, and that was the end of the proud lion.
Ricky the rabbit raced back and told all the other animals the good news. The jungle erupted in cheers and laughter.
Everyone celebrated the small, clever rabbit who had saved them all. From that day on, the forest was a peaceful and happy place to live.
And the moral of the story is that wisdom is always stronger than brute strength.
A clever mind can overcome even the mightiest foe. Thanks for watching. In a quiet little meadow surrounded by tall green grass, lived a kind and cheerful country mouse named Milo.
Milo absolutely loved his simple life. His meals were feasts of fresh corn, sweet berries, and crunchy grains he found in the fields.
His days were filled with singing along with the birds and taking long, peaceful naps under the shade of a big oak tree. For Milo, life was perfect. One sunny morning, a visitor arrived. It was his cousin Max, the city mouse, looking dapper in a tiny shiny hat and a neat little jacket.
"Oh, Milo,"
Max exclaimed, looking around. "You live so simply. You have to come with me to the city and taste the good life. We have delicious cheese, the fanciest food you can imagine, and bright lights everywhere." Milo's whiskers twitched with curiosity. "Wow, Max, that sounds so exciting. I'd love to see the city," he squeaked.
And just like that, the two cousins packed their tiny bags and set off on an adventure to the bustling city.
When they finally arrived, Milo's eyes grew wide with wonder. He had never seen anything like it. There were buildings that touched the sky, sparkling lights that blinked and shimmered,
and a symphony of endless noises, cars honking, people chatting, and music playing from every corner. Max led Milo to a grand kitchen inside a huge house.
"Milo, my friend, look at this feast," Max whispered with pride. Spread across the tables were all sorts of leftover wonders. Creamy cheeses, sugary cakes, and crumbs from what must have been a royal dinner. Milo couldn't believe his eyes. "This is amazing," he said, taking a tiny nibble of a delicious piece of cheese.
But suddenly, boom! The kitchen door swung open. Two enormous humans walked in, and right behind them was a giant fluffy cat with sharp, watchful eyes.
The mice scurried away as fast as their little legs could carry them, squeezing into a tiny hole in the wall just in the nick of time. Milo's heart was pounding in his chest. "Oh dear," he gasped, catching his breath. "Is it always this thrilling?" Max chuckled nervously. "Well, yes. But you get used to it." Milo just shook his head. "No thank you, cousin. I think I'd rather eat my simple grains in peace than have a feast while living in fear." The very next morning, Milo returned to his peaceful meadow. The birds greeted him with a familiar song. A soft breeze rustled through the grass, and the fields glowed in the warm sunlight. He took a deep breath of fresh air, smiled, and said, "Home sweet home, where peace is the greatest treasure of all." From that day on, the city mouse and the country mouse visited each other often, each happy and content in their own world. The story reminds us that it's better to live a simple life filled with peace than a life of luxury filled with danger. True happiness often comes from contentment, not from having more. Thanks for listening, everyone. And welcome to our story corner. Today, we rejourneying to a faraway kingdom to tell the tale of a kind and beautiful princess named Aurora. With rosy cheeks and hair that shimmered like gold, her heart was full of love, and everyone in the kingdom adored her. When Aurora was born, her parents, the king and queen, threw a magnificent celebration. Fairies from all across the land came to bestow magical gifts upon the baby princess. The first fairy blessed her with beauty, and the second blessed her with kindness. But just as the third fairy was about to give her gift, poof! A wicked fairy named Maleficent appeared in a swirl of green smoke. "How dare you forget to invite me?" she shrieked, her eyes glowing with anger. She raised her staff and cast a terrible spell. Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, Aurora will prick her finger on a spinning wheel and fall into a deep, endless sleep. Everyone gasped in horror. The queen cried and the king begged for mercy. But before the curse could fully take hold, the third fairy stepped forward. She couldn't undo the curse, but she could soften it. "Princess Aurora shall not die," she declared. "She will only sleep until she is awakened by true love's kiss." To protect their daughter, the king ordered every spinning wheel in the kingdom to be destroyed. Aurora was sent to live deep in the forest, cared for by the three kind fairies, who called themselves Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather. She grew up sweet and graceful, singing with the birds and dreaming of meeting someone special. One day, while singing by a stream, she met a handsome prince named Philip. They didn't know each other's names, but their hearts knew they were meant to be. On Aurora's 16th birthday, the fairies brought her back to the castle. But sadly, Maleficent's curse was too powerful. A magical spinning wheel appeared, glowing in a dark room. Drawn by the spell, Aurora touched the spindle and fell fast asleep. The heartbroken fairies placed her on a bed of roses in the tallest tower, and the entire kingdom fell silent, waiting for a hero. When Prince Philip heard what had happened, he knew he had to save her. He rode swiftly to the castle, but Maleficent stood in his way, transforming into a fearsome fire-breathing dragon. With courage and love as his shield, Philip fought bravely and defeated the wicked fairy. He climbed the long stairs to the tower, knelt beside the sleeping princess, and gently kissed her. Instantly, the curse broke. Aurora's eyes fluttered open, and she smiled. The whole castle awoke, bells rang, and joy filled the air. The king and queen hugged their precious daughter. Soon after, Aurora and Prince Philip danced together, surrounded by fairies and magical lights, living happily ever after. This timeless story reminds us that true love, kindness, and courage can conquer even the darkest magic. Thank you so much for listening. In a peaceful little village, lived a kind couple who longed for a child. Behind their home lay a magnificent garden, but it belonged to a fearsome witch named Mother Gothel, and everyone was too afraid to go near it. One morning, the wife spotted a lush green plant called Rapunzel growing there. She craved it so deeply that her husband, seeing her despair, decided to risk everything. That night, he snuck into the garden to pick some for her. But just as he grabbed the leaves, Mother Gothel appeared with a terrifying hiss. "How dare you steal from my garden?" she shrieked. The man, trembling, explained it was for his wife and their unborn child.
The witch considered this and made a chilling offer.
"You may take the Rapunzel," she said, "but in return, you must give me your baby when it's born." Heartbroken, the couple agreed. Soon after, a beautiful baby girl was born.
As promised, Mother Gothel arrived and snatched her away.
She named the baby Rapunzel and locked her in a tall, isolated tower deep in the forest.
The tower had no doors and only a single window at the very top. As Rapunzel grew, so did her hair, becoming incredibly long and radiant, shining like spun gold.
Every day, the witch would visit, standing at the base of the tower and calling out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel would then unpin her long, thick braid, letting it tumble down to the ground, and Mother Gothel would climb up it like a rope.
Alone in her tower, Rapunzel found solace in singing.
Her sweet melodies filled the air as she dreamt of the world she could only see from her window.
She longed to explore the forest, touch the flowers, and dance under the stars.
One day, a prince was riding through the forest when he heard the most enchanting song.
He followed the sound until he found the mysterious tower.
Curious, he hid behind a tree and watched as the witch called for Rapunzel to let down her hair.
The next day, the prince returned and decided to try it himself. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair,"
he called. To his astonishment, the golden braid descended. He climbed up and found Rapunzel, who was startled, having never seen anyone but the witch. But the prince's kind smile quickly put her at ease.
"Don't be afraid,"
he said softly. "I heard your beautiful singing and just had to meet you."
From that day on, the prince visited her daily. They shared stories, laughed, and dreamt of a life together, free from the tower. One evening, the prince made a promise.
"Rapunzel, I'll bring a rope ladder tomorrow.
We can escape this tower together and go to my kingdom."
But their secret was discovered. The wicked witch, in a fit of rage, took a pair of scissors and snipped off Rapunzel's magnificent hair. She then cast Rapunzel out into a desolate, lonely part of the wilderness. When the prince arrived and called out, he began to climb what he thought was Rapunzel's hair. But at the top, he was met by the glaring eyes of Mother Gothel. "You will never see your precious Rapunzel again," she cackled. Overcome with grief, the prince fled into the forest, wandering blindly, searching for his lost love.
Meanwhile, Rapunzel learned to survive on her own.
She befriended the animals of the forest, and despite her sadness, she never gave up hope. One afternoon, as she was singing a familiar, sorrowful tune, she heard a voice call her name.
It was the prince. They ran into each other's arms, weeping with joy.
As Rapunzel's tears of happiness fell onto the prince's face, a miracle occurred.
Her tears healed him, and his sight was restored.
Together, they returned to his kingdom, where the king and queen welcomed Rapunzel with open hearts.
They were married in a grand celebration, and Rapunzel finally got to see the beautiful world she had only dreamed of. They lived happily ever after, their lives filled with the love and courage that had brought them together. This story reminds us that with hope and courage, we can overcome even the highest towers in our lives. Thank you so much for joining me on this magical journey today.